Hi everyone, welcome back to Mission 1820 and this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? In case you are just joining us, we have been in a series called Books of the Bible, and we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So without further ado, and if you're ready, let's go ahead and dive into this week's book. This week, we are in the book of 1 John. This is the 23rd book of the New Testament. Although the epistle doesn't state the author's name, there's solid evidence that it was actually written by the Apostle John when he was in Ephesus sometime between AD 81 and AD 86. Now, strong similarities between this letter and the Gospel of John substantiates the testimony of many early church fathers, including Polycarp, who actually knew John personally. Now, they substantiated that both writings were the work of the Apostle John. The book of 1 John contains 5 short chapters, and they're broken down into 2 different parts. Part 1 is the basis of fellowship. This is in chapter 1 through chapter 2, verse 27. Part 2 is the behavior of fellowship. This is found in chapter 2, verse 28, all the way through chapter 5, verse 21. The book of 1 John was written in order to combat false teachings that had to do with the denial that Jesus had a genuine human body. This is what is called the Gnostic view. Now, John clearly writes to give the true test of a true Christian. And these tests also contradicted the Gnostic immoral approach to Christianity, while also giving several means to measure the reality of one's conversion experience. See, John wanted in no uncertain terms for his readers to experience true fellowship, not just with God, but also with God's people. But he also knew that that wasn't going to happen until the Christians set aside their own selfish desires in favor of the pursuits that God actually had for them. John emphasized that fellowship with God is realized by knowing God and abiding in him. The problem lies is that many think just because that they know about God, that they also have some sort of personal relationship with him. But we know that that's not enough, because we need to be joined in him in righteousness and love, but we also have to know him intimately. The main aim of 1 John is to affirm the core Christian belief that God is light and love, emphasizing the importance of truth, love, and fellowship among the believers. In his book, John addresses various issues that were facing the early Christians, including false teachings and moral challenges. And John was calling for his believers to walk in the light, to live in love, and to hold fast to their faith. His words remind us of the essentials of Christian doctrine and ethical living. So in the book, John takes the time to make some parallels between several topics within his book. And those include Christ versus the Antichrist, light and darkness, truth and falsehood, as well as righteousness and sin. But what John was ultimately trying to tell us with these parallels is that there's an absolute right and there's an absolute wrong, period, on that. You know, in the end, the aging Apostle John had hoped to reignite the zeal of these believers so that they might follow the Lord more closely and stand firm against those false teachers who were really out to sow discord among the churches. What he was really looking for us to do was to solidify our relationship with God and to gain confidence in his work in our own lives. The teachings of 1 John emphasize the basics of faith so that we as Christians can be more confident in our own faith. So with that, I hope that this introduction to the book of 1 John is going to help get you started. So God bless, and thanks for watching.